I found out I won the lottery while sitting in my truck outside a Walmart at 11:43 p.m. The jackpot was $38 million. I checked the numbers 3 times because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Then I threw up in the parking lot. And before sunrise the next morning, my brother somehow already knew. That was the first moment I realized my life was about to split into 2 versions. The old one, and the nightmare that came after. My name's Ethan Cole. I'm 38 years old. I live in a suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. Before all this happened, my life was painfully average. I worked HVAC repair. Long hours. Bad knees. Coffee that tasted like dirt. I rented a small ranch-style house and drove a Ford truck that sounded like it was dying every time I started it. But I was okay. At least I thought I was. My family always treated me like the dependable one. The guy who never complained. The guy who loaned money and never asked for it back. Especially my younger brother, Derek. Derek had burned through 3 jobs in 2 years. He always had some excuse. Bad boss. Bad economy. Bad luck. But somehow he always had money for gambling, expensive shoes, and Vegas trips. My mother defended him constantly. He's just figuring life out, she'd say. The man was 34, still living like a college freshman. My dad barely spoke anymore after his stroke, but even he looked exhausted every time Derek walked into the room. Still, he was family, so I helped. Again and again. That Friday night, I stopped at a gas station after work. Bought beef jerky, a 6-pack, and 2 lottery tickets. No special reason. No lucky feeling. Just habit. I scratched one in the truck. Lost. The second one sat in my cup holder for hours. I almost forgot about it. Then outside Walmart, I checked the numbers using my phone. Every single number matched. At first I thought the app glitched. Then my chest tightened. I remember whispering, "No way," over and over. I drove home in complete silence. No music. No radio. Nothing. I locked every door. Pulled all the blinds shut. Then sat at my kitchen table staring at the ticket until sunrise. I didn't sleep. I didn't even blink much. My entire future sat on that tiny piece of paper. By 8 a.m., I called a financial attorney downtown. Smartest decision I ever made. Because by noon my family was already circling. It started with my mother. She called sounding weirdly cheerful. "Sweetheart," she said, "how are you today?" That alone felt suspicious. Then she asked if I'd seen the news about the winning ticket sold nearby. I lied instantly. "Yeah, crazy." She paused, long enough for my stomach to tighten. Then she said, "Derek thinks maybe it was you." I nearly dropped the phone. Why would he think that? He said you bought tickets yesterday. I never told Derek that, which meant someone at the gas station had talked. Small town. Loose mouths. Dangerous combination. I denied everything. But something changed after that call. I could feel it. Like sharks smelling blood underwater. An hour later, Derek showed up at my house unannounced. Big smile. Too big. He walked in without asking. Looked around. Then said, "So you rich now?" I laughed nervously. "You serious?" "Come on, Ethan." He opened my fridge like he owned the place. "You can tell me." I stayed quiet. And that's when his entire face changed. Not joking anymore. Calculating. "It is you," he said softly. I should have thrown him out right there. Instead, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I trusted family. I admitted it. I told him quietly, "Don't tell anyone." He nodded immediately. Too quickly. Then he hugged me. And I swear to God, it felt fake. Cold. Like a business deal. By that evening, 6 relatives had texted me. My cousin Ashley suddenly wanted to reconnect. An uncle I hadn't spoken to in 3 years called me buddy. My aunt sent Bible verses about generosity. And my ex-girlfriend Melissa somehow emailed me after 2 years of silence. That's when panic really hit. The money wasn't even in my account yet. But people already treated me differently. Like I stopped being human overnight. At dinner, my mother invited me over. I almost didn't go. I should have trusted that instinct. The second I walked inside, everyone went quiet. Derek, my mother, Ashley, even Ashley's husband. Like they'd been waiting. Then my mom smiled too hard. "We're family," she said. And somehow, those words sounded like a threat. That dinner changed everything. Because halfway through dessert, Derek leaned back in his chair and said something I'll never forget. Something that made me realize they already saw my money as theirs. He looked directly at me and smiled. "You know," he said, "Dad always said family shares everything." Then he slid a folder across the table. A business proposal. For MY lottery money. And that was only the beginning. The folder Derek pushed across the table looked cheap. Thin blue plastic. Coffee stain on the corner. But the second I opened it, I realized my family had already been planning my money before I'd even claimed it. Inside were printed pages, charts, fake projections, a logo, Cole Brothers Entertainment Group. I stared at him. What is this? Derek smiled like he was pitching Shark Tank. Our future. Our. Not mine. Our. Ashley leaned forward immediately. It's actually a really smart investment. Investment? I hadn't even touched the money. My mother chimed in next. Your brother's trying to build something meaningful. I flipped through the pages. Nightclub, sports bar, crypto investments, luxury Airbnb properties. The entire thing looked like a scam designed by a drunk teenager. Then I saw the number highlighted at the bottom. $5 million. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process the insanity. You think I'm giving you $5 million? Derek's smile disappeared instantly. Giving. There it was. The entitlement. The real version of him. I'm your brother, he snapped. Exactly. Not my business partner. The room got tense fast. Ashley suddenly looked uncomfortable. My mother folded her arms. Then Derek said the sentence that changed how I saw him forever. You wouldn't even have that money without family luck. Family luck. Like they earned it. Like my ticket belonged to all of them. I pushed the folder back. No. Simple. Direct. But Derek kept going. You're seriously going to sit on $38 million while your family struggles? I stared at him in disbelief. This was the same man who blew $8,000 at a casino 6 months earlier. The same guy who borrowed money for rent while wearing a $1,000 watch. Now suddenly I was selfish? My mother stepped in. Nobody's saying you owe us everything, which always means they think you owe them something. Then came the guilt. Fast. Aggressive. Predictable. Your father worked himself to death for this family. Derek's just trying to build a future. Money changes people, Ethan. That one almost made me choke. Because they were right. Money was changing people. Just not me. I left 10 minutes later. Nobody hugged me goodbye. Nobody smiled. The second I refused the money, I became the enemy. And things escalated immediately. The next morning, my phone exploded. Texts, calls, voicemails, unknown numbers. Someone leaked my name online. People from high school started messaging me. One guy asked for help opening a vape shop. Another claimed his daughter needed surgery. A woman I barely remembered sent me a 3-page message about destiny bringing us together. It was insane. But the worst part? My own family joined the feeding frenzy. Derek posted a cryptic Facebook status. Crazy how money reveals who people really are. Hundreds of likes. Comments calling me greedy. Selfish. Ungrateful. I hadn't even responded publicly. Then Ashley messaged me privately. Mom's crying. Classic move. Weaponized guilt. I ignored it. That afternoon, I met with my attorney again. A serious guy named Leonard Briggs. Gray suit. No nonsense. The kind of man who could smell disaster before it happened. I told him everything. He listened quietly. Then asked one question. Who knows exactly how much you won? My family. He sighed immediately. Not good. Then he looked me dead in the eye. Mr. Cole, do not trust anyone right now. That sentence sat heavy in my chest. Because deep down, I already knew. Leonard helped me establish temporary protections, new banking arrangements, private trust options, security recommendations. He even suggested changing my phone number. At first it sounded extreme. Until that night. I came home and found Derek sitting in my driveway. Drunk, angry, and not alone. 2 of his friends stood beside him. One recording with his phone. There he is. Derek shouted. I stayed inside the truck. What are you doing? Talking to my rich brother. His friends laughed. I could smell alcohol from 10 feet away. Then Derek walked closer. Mom says you think you're better than us now. Go home, Derek. Nah. His smile vanished. You owe this family. There it was again. Oh, like love came with invoices. I locked the truck doors. Good thing too, because suddenly Derek slapped the hood hard. We made you. The rage in his face shocked me. This wasn't jealousy anymore. It was hatred. Real hatred. I backed out carefully and drove straight to a hotel downtown. I didn't even go inside my own house. That was the first night I truly understood something terrifying. Winning the lottery hadn't made my family greedy. It exposed greed that had always been there. And they were only getting started. Because at 2:13 a.m., my attorney called me. Someone had attempted to access my banking information. using my social security number. And there were only 3 people on Earth who knew where I kept my documents. Me, my mother, and Derek. I barely slept after Leonard's call. I sat upright in the hotel bed staring at the dark TV screen while my brain replayed every moment with Derek. Every lie, every fake smile, every time I trusted him. By morning, I already knew who tried accessing my accounts. I just didn't want to admit it. Leonard arranged an emergency meeting at his office. When I arrived, he already had paperwork spread across the conference table. Fraud alerts, credit monitoring, identity protection requests. Then he slid one document toward me. A failed wire transfer attempt. Amount requested? $200,000. My stomach dropped. The request had been made online using my personal information. Correct birthday. Correct social security number. Correct banking institution. Too accurate to be random. Leonard adjusted his glasses. Has anyone ever had access to your documents? I didn't answer immediately, because once I said it out loud, everything became real. My family. Leonard nodded slowly. Not surprised. Almost like he'd seen this before. Then he said something that chilled me. Lottery cases destroy families more often than divorce. I believed him instantly. By noon, I drove back to my house with a police escort recommendation Leonard insisted on. At first I thought he was overreacting. Then I saw my front door. Unlocked. I never leave it unlocked. Ever. The second I stepped inside, my chest tightened. Drawers open. Closet torn apart. Desk emptied. Someone had searched everything. Not robbed. Searched. Like they were hunting for documents. And deep down, I already knew who. Then I saw something worse. My safe. Open. Empty. The lottery ticket wasn't there anymore. For one horrifying second, I couldn't breathe. Then I remembered. Leonard had convinced me the previous day to place the ticket inside a secured bank lockbox. If I hadn't listened to him, my own family would have stolen $38 million from me. I actually sat down on the floor, hands shaking, because the reality hit hard. Derek hadn't just asked for money. He'd already tried taking it. I called him immediately, straight to voicemail. Then my mother answered. And before I even spoke, she sounded nervous. Ethan, where's Derek? Silence. That silence told me everything. Mom, where's he? He's upset. Upset? Someone broke into my house. Did he come here? Another pause. Then softly, you know how emotional your brother gets. I almost lost it. That was her response. Not denial. Not shock. Excuses. She already knew. I hung up instantly. An hour later, Derek finally texted. Not an apology. Not denial. Just this. You're choosing money over blood. I stared at the screen in disbelief. He tried stealing from me, and somehow I was the villain. That evening, things got even worse. Because Melissa showed up. My ex. The woman who dumped me 2 years earlier because I lacked ambition. Funny how ambition suddenly appeared after $38 million. She knocked on my door around sunset. Tight red dress. Perfect makeup. That same fake smile I used to fall for. I didn't even invite her in. What do you want? She looked hurt immediately. Performative hurt. Wow, that's how you greet me? You disappeared for 2 years. I made mistakes. There it was. The emotional fishing. Then she stepped closer. I heard you've been overwhelmed. Heard, meaning everybody was talking. Small town cancer. She touched my arm gently. You shouldn't go through this alone. I almost laughed. Because suddenly everyone wanted to support me emotionally. For a price. I pulled away. You need to leave. Her face hardened instantly. Mask slipping. Seriously? Yes. Then came the real reason she was there. I know Derek's been talking to people. That got my attention. What people? She hesitated, then lowered her voice. Bad people, Ethan. Cold hit my spine. Apparently Derek had been bragging at bars. Talking about my money, my house, my routine, even claiming he'd soon have access to millions. And according to Melissa, some dangerous men had started paying attention. That was the moment this stopped feeling like family drama. Now it felt dangerous. Actually dangerous. I thanked her for the warning. She tried hugging me. I stepped back, and the look on her face turned ugly fast. No sadness. No heartbreak. Just irritation. Like a failed business opportunity. After she left, I packed a bag immediately. I called Leonard. He answered on the first ring. Then he said something terrifying. Mr. Cole, I was about to call you. My stomach dropped. What happened? Someone filed paperwork attempting partial claim rights to your winnings. I froze. What? Then he said the name. Derek. My own brother was trying to legally challenge ownership of my lottery money, claiming we purchased the ticket together. And suddenly I realized something horrifying. This wasn't about greed anymore. This had become war. The lawsuit hit local news within 48 hours. Ohio man sued by brother after lottery win. My face was everywhere. Gas stations, Facebook, TikTok clips. Even people at grocery stores recognized me. I became a walking jackpot. And Derek loved every second of it. He started doing interviews. Actual interviews. Telling reporters we bought the ticket together. Claiming I betrayed him. Claiming I promised to split everything. All lies. But lies spread faster than truth. Especially dramatic ones. My mother publicly supported him. That part hurt worse than the lawsuit. She told relatives Derek deserved his fair share. Fair share. Of money he didn't win. I stopped answering calls completely. Leonard handled everything. He assured me the case was weak. No proof. No witnesses. No legal standing. But still, lawsuits create pressure. Public pressure. Emotional pressure. Family pressure. That's the point. And Derek knew it. 3 days later, my father called. First time he'd called me directly in months. His voice sounded fragile after the stroke. Slow. Heavy. Need see you. I drove to my parents' house immediately. My mother wasn't home. Thank God. Dad sat alone at the kitchen table. Hands trembling. Eyes exhausted. But something about him felt urgent. Like he'd been carrying a weight too long. I sat down quietly. You okay? He looked at me for a long time. Then whispered. Derek, not your brother. Everything inside me stopped. What? He swallowed hard. Then told me a secret buried for over 30 years. When my mother was pregnant with Derek, she had an affair. My father knew. Always knew. But he stayed. Raised Derek anyway. Pretended. Protected the family. I couldn't process it. My ears rang. Dad looked ashamed. Broken. Your mother begged me, he whispered. Then came the second bomb. Derek knew. He found out years ago. And according to my father, he'd used that secret to manipulate my mother ever since. Everything suddenly made sense. The favoritism. The excuses. The constant protection. My mother wasn't defending Derek because she loved him more. She was protecting her guilt. And Derek weaponized it. For years, Dad's eyes watered. He thinks world owes him. I sat there stunned. 38 years old. And suddenly my entire family history looked fake. Then Dad grabbed my wrist. Harder than I expected. Be careful. That scared me. Because my father never talked like that. Ever. Then he told me the real reason he called. 2 nights earlier, Derek brought men to the house. Strangers. Aggressive. Talking loudly about money. One of them mentioned collecting soon. My blood ran cold. Debt. Derek owed dangerous people. Now everything clicked together. The desperation. The rage. The lawsuit. He didn't just want my money. He needed it. Fast. Then Dad said the sentence I'll never forget. If he can't get it legally, he'll try another way. I drove straight to Leonard's office. No stops. No detours. And when I told him everything, he immediately contacted private security. That's how serious this became. Within 24 hours, I moved into a secured condo under temporary confidentiality arrangements. Unreal. A week earlier, I was fixing air conditioners. Now I needed security because my family thought I was an ATM. Then came the worst night. Around 1:40 a.m., security cameras caught someone outside my old house, trying to enter through the back, wearing a hoodie. But even blurry footage couldn't hide the limp. Derek's old football injury. It was him. My own brother was stalking my property in the middle of the night. And when police questioned him, he claimed he was checking on family assets. Family assets. That phrase made me sick. But the nightmare still wasn't over. Because the next morning, my mother called crying hysterically. Derek was missing. And so was $200,000 borrowed from very dangerous men. The call from my mother came at 6:12 a.m., screaming, crying, barely coherent. They're gonna kill him, Ethan. I sat upright instantly. Who? The men he owes. There it was. Finally, the truth. Apparently Derek had borrowed money from underground sports gamblers over the past 2 years. A lot of money. Not thousands. Hundreds of thousands. And when he found out I won the lottery, he promised them he'd pay everything back soon. With my winnings. Without asking me. Without permission. He had literally gambled with my future. My mother sobbed into the phone. You have to help him. Still unbelievable. Not he ruined his life. Not he made terrible choices. No, I had to fix it. I stayed quiet for several seconds. then asked, "Where is he?" She hesitated. That hesitation told me she already knew more than she admitted. "I don't know." Lie. I could hear it. Years of covering for Derek had made her terrible at hiding guilt. Then she whispered, "They came to the house last night." Cold spread through my chest. Apparently, two men arrived around midnight asking for Derek. One carried a handgun visibly tucked inside his waistband. My father tried confronting them. They laughed at him. That image broke something inside me. My sick father standing there while criminals circled because of Derek's lies. I called Leonard immediately. He contacted law enforcement. But there wasn't much they could do without formal complaints. And guess what? Derek refused to cooperate. Because criminals don't scare gamblers until it's too late. Around noon, I got another call. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I answered. Silence. Heavy breathing. Then Derek. "I need help." His voice sounded completely different. Terrified. Not arrogant anymore. Not angry. Broken. I pulled over immediately. "Where are you?" He gave me an address outside the city. Cheap motel. I shouldn't have gone. Every instinct screamed not to. But despite everything, part of me still remembered him as my little brother. Or at least the version I thought existed. I arrived 30 minutes later. The motel looked disgusting. Cracked windows. Flashing vacancy sign. The kind of place people disappear in. Derek opened the door, looking horrible. Bloodshot eyes. Sweating. Hands shaking. There were beer bottles everywhere. And cocaine on the bathroom counter. I stared at him. Jesus Christ. He sat down hard. Then finally told me everything. The gambling. The debts. The lies. He owed nearly $400,000. And when he heard about my lottery win, he saw salvation. Not me. Money. That's all I became. An escape plan. Then he said something that genuinely shocked me. "Mom told me you'd eventually cave." I froze. "What?" She said, "You always do." That one hurt. Because it was true. My entire life, I solved family problems. Paid bills. Covered emergencies. Stayed quiet. Absorbed pressure. And they mistook kindness for weakness. Derek looked up at me desperately. "Just give me the money." Not apology. Not regret. Still the money. Always the money. I shook my head slowly. "No." His face twisted instantly, like an addict denied another hit. "They'll kill me. Then go to the police. You don't understand." He slammed the wall so hard the lamp shook. Then came the real truth. "I already promised them your payout." My stomach dropped. He had used my name, my winnings, my future, as collateral, without permission. Suddenly headlights flashed outside. Derek panicked instantly. Actually panicked. He looked through the curtains, then whispered, "Oh God." Two black SUVs pulled into the motel lot. Men stepped out. Calm. Slow. Dangerous. My adrenaline exploded. "Back exit," Derek whispered. We ran. Literally ran through the motel bathroom window. Glass shattered. I sliced my arm climbing through. We sprinted behind the building while voices shouted nearby. One man yelled, "That's him." I hadn't felt fear like that in my entire life. Not movie fear. Real fear. Animal fear. We jumped a fence and reached my truck. Derek nearly collapsed getting inside. As I drove away, he started crying. Actually crying. And for one brief second, I almost felt sorry for him. Until he said, "This is your fault too." I looked at him in disbelief. Even now, even after everything, still blaming me. That was the moment I emotionally let go of him forever. I drove Derek straight to Leonard's office. Not home. Not a hospital. Not our parents' house. Somewhere controlled. Secure. Because at this point I trusted absolutely nobody. Derek sat silently in the passenger seat the entire drive. Sweating. Sniffling. Looking over his shoulder every 30 seconds. Fear finally caught up to him. But fear doesn't magically create accountability. And I learned that quickly. The second we reached the office, Derek started changing his story. Suddenly the debts weren't his fault. His friends pressured him. The betting apps manipulated him. Stress caused everything. Excuses. Always excuses. Leonard listened quietly, then asked one simple question. "Did you illegally attempt to access your brother's financial accounts?" Derek looked away. That was answer enough. Then Leonard asked another. "Did you knowingly make false legal claims regarding ownership of the lottery ticket?" More silence. I watched my brother shrink smaller with every truth exposed. But the real explosion happened when my mother arrived. Because Derek had secretly texted her. The second she walked into the office, she rushed directly to him. Not me. Him. holding his face, crying, "My baby, baby." The man was 34 years old, hiding from loan sharks. Then she turned toward me, and somehow she looked angry. "How could you let this happen?" I genuinely thought I misheard her. "Excuse me. He's your brother." There it was again. Family. The magic word used to excuse everything. I stood slowly, years of swallowed anger finally rising. He broke into my house. She stayed quiet. He tried stealing my identity. Still quiet. He sued me for money that isn't his. Her eyes watered. Then she whispered, "He's struggling." And suddenly I snapped. Not screaming. Not violence. Just truth. Years of truth. "You created this," I said. The room froze. I kept going. "You protected him every single time he failed." Her face crumbled instantly. "Ethan." "No." I pointed toward Derek. "He lies because nobody made him stop." Another step. "He steals because everybody forgives him." Another. "And now he thinks my life belongs to him because you taught him that." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Painful. Real. Then my mother said something unforgivable. "You don't understand what he's been through." That's when I realized she would never choose reality over him. Never. Even now. Even after crimes. Even after betrayal. Then Leonard quietly revealed the final piece. Derek's lawsuit had already collapsed. The court dismissed the claim due to lack of evidence. Completely. Legally finished. I expected relief. Instead, Derek exploded. He started yelling, calling me selfish, saying I ruined his life. Then came the line that ended everything. "You should have shared it from the start. Not earned. Not deserved. Shared. Like my existence existed to rescue him." Security stepped closer. Derek shoved a chair. My mother screamed. And suddenly this entire family looked like strangers. Broken strangers chained together by blood and resentment. I walked toward the door. Then my mother spoke one final time. "If something happens to him, I'll never forgive you." That sentence followed me for weeks. Because deep down, I realized she meant it. Not Derek. Me. I was the disappointment because I refused to sacrifice myself. That night, I sat alone in my condo staring at the city lights. $38 million. And somehow I'd never felt emptier. People think money solves problems. Sometimes it reveals them. And once truth gets exposed, there's no putting families back together. Then around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. A photo. Derek tied to a chair. Bruised. Terrified. Underneath the image were 7 words. "Family should take care of family." The photo made my blood run cold. Derek looked destroyed. Lips split. One eye swollen shut. Hands zip-tied behind the chair. And behind him stood 2 shadowy figures. Watching. Waiting. I called the number instantly. A man answered on the second ring. Calm voice. That was the scary part. Calm people are dangerous. "Mr. Cole," he said politely. "Your brother created a very expensive problem." I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you want?" He laughed softly. "What we're owed." Then he named the amount. $480,000. Interest included. I closed my eyes. Nearly $500,000. For Derek's stupidity. The man continued. "Your brother promised payment after your lottery claim." There it was again. My money. My life. Used like collateral. Without consent. I asked if Derek was alive. The man chuckled. "For now." Then he hung up. I immediately contacted Leonard and law enforcement. But kidnapping cases move slowly when victims owe organized criminals money, especially when the victim spent months lying to everyone. The police advised caution. No direct payment. No solo meetings. Standard protocol. But nothing about this situation felt standard anymore. Then my mother arrived at my condo. Unannounced. Hysterical. Apparently, the kidnappers contacted her too, demanding money. She burst into tears the second I opened the door. "Please save him." I looked at her quietly. Tired. Emotionally drained. Then asked, "Would he save me?" She froze. Because deep down, she knew the answer. Still, she begged. Fell apart completely. And despite everything, despite the betrayal, manipulation, theft, lies, I couldn't let my brother die. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe human. Probably both. Leonard hated the idea. The FBI hated the idea. But eventually a controlled payment strategy was arranged. Marked bills. Tracking. Surveillance. Everything coordinated carefully. The exchange happened 2 nights later in an abandoned warehouse district. Rain pouring. Of course it was raining. Life suddenly felt like a crime movie written by somebody deeply angry at humanity. I sat inside an SUV with federal agents nearby while the money case rested beside me. $500,000 to clean up another man's disaster. At 11:17 p.m., headlights appeared. 3 vehicles. Men stepped out slowly. No panic. Professionals. One opened a van. And there was Derek. Alive. Barely. They dragged him forward. The lead man approached my window. Middle-aged. Dead eyes. Family man, he said with a smirk. I said nothing. He glanced at the money. Then at me. Your brother gambles like an idiot. Hard to argue with that. The exchange happened fast. Money transferred. Derek released. Then suddenly everything exploded. Sirens. Agents moving. Men shouting. The operation turned chaotic instantly. 2 suspects fled. One got tackled beside a loading dock. Another vehicle crashed trying to escape. Pure madness. I grabbed Derek and pulled him toward cover while rain hammered the pavement. He looked half-conscious, mumbling. Then suddenly he grabbed my jacket. Tears mixing with rain. I'm sorry, he whispered. And for the first time since all this started, I believed him. Not because he changed. Because fear finally stripped away the ego. After the arrests, paramedics treated Derek at the scene. Minor injuries. Severe dehydration. Cocaine withdrawal. Emotional collapse. The doctors used nicer words. But that's what it was. Collapse. Everything finally crashing down. A week later, Derek entered rehab voluntarily. Court-ordered financial investigations followed. More ugly truths surfaced. Fake loans. Forged signatures. Secret credit cards under my father's name. The damage was enormous. My mother completely broke emotionally. She stopped calling daily. Stopped defending him publicly. Reality finally reached her. Too late. Way too late. And me? I claimed the money quietly through legal protections. No giant mansion. No Lamborghinis. No stupid spending. I bought land outside the city. Built a simple house near a lake. Peace mattered more than luxury. But even after everything settled, one thing still haunted me. Not the threats. Not the money. Not the lawsuit. The realization that the people closest to you can become strangers the second greed enters the room. And sometimes, they were strangers long before the money arrived. 6 months after the lottery win, my father died quietly in his sleep. Heart complications. Stress. Age. Probably all of it together. The funeral was small. Cold November wind. Gray skies. The kind of weather that makes everything feel unfinished. Derek attended sober. Thinner. Quieter. Older somehow. Rehab changed parts of him. Not magically. Not perfectly. But enough to make guilt visible. My mother barely spoke during the service. Years of tension sat heavy between us. There are some wounds apologies can't fully close. After the burial, the attorney handling my father's estate handed me a sealed envelope. Your father wanted you to have this privately. I opened it later that night alone at home. Inside was a handwritten letter. Short. Simple. The handwriting shaky from his illness. But one sentence hit harder than everything else. I'm sorry I taught you love meant sacrifice. I stared at those words for a long time. Because he was right. That's exactly what happened. In our family, love always meant giving. Fixing. Enduring. Absorbing damage quietly. And the second I stopped doing that, everyone treated me like the villain. The lottery didn't destroy my family. It exposed cracks that had existed for decades. Money just forced the truth into daylight. A few weeks later, Derek asked to meet. Public place. Coffee shop. I almost declined. But curiosity won. He arrived early. No designer clothes. No fake confidence. No manipulation. Just tired eyes and nervous hands. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then he finally said, I hated you for winning. Honest. Brutal. Real. He admitted everything. The jealousy. The resentment. Watching me stay stable while his life collapsed. The lottery became proof, at least in his mind, that life rewarded the wrong brother. Then he looked down and whispered, I thought if I got the money, maybe I'd finally matter. That line stayed with me, because underneath all the greed and destruction was something uglier. Emptiness. Derek spent his entire life chasing shortcuts because deep down he believed he was already failing. That doesn't excuse what he did, not even close. But understanding somebody and forgiving them aren't the same thing. Before leaving, he slid an envelope toward me. Inside was a repayment plan. Detailed. Small monthly amounts. Real effort. Not enough to erase the damage. but maybe enough to prove he finally understood consequences. Maybe. We still don't talk much. My mother and I speak occasionally, mostly holidays. Careful conversations. Fragile peace. Some relationships survive betrayal. Others survive only in smaller forms. As for the money, people always ask if it made me happy. Truth? Not exactly. It made life easier, safer, more comfortable. But happiness? That's different. Because once you see what people are willing to become for money, you never fully unsee it. Even now, I still catch myself questioning kindness, questioning motives, questioning love. And maybe that's the real price nobody talks about when you win the lottery. Not taxes, not lawsuits, not strangers asking for money. It's realizing some people only love the version of you they could use. And the second you stop being useful, the mask slips. But there's one thing my father wrote at the bottom of that letter that I'll never forget. One final sentence. You're allowed to protect your peace, son. So that's what I do now. I protect my peace, no matter who hates me for it.